Hello, my creators, and welcome to my Creativity Corner. My name is Claire, and today I am so excited to be making art with you. Today, we are going to learn about values in form drawings and practice drawing lemons. So come along and let's explore together. But first, we need to put on our art clothes. All right, I'm ready to get messy. All right, let's get started on our lemon drawing. So the first big decision I have to make is whether or not I want my paper to be nice and wide in landscape style, or if I want to be nice and tall in portrait style. I think for this drawing, I'd like to have mine in landscape style, so I'm going to keep it nice and wide. Now I'm going to go ahead and think about the shapes of these two lovely lemons. To me, they're very circular, but I don't think that they're perfect circles. This one looks quite a bit more round than this one. See, this one's a little bit flat on top and bottom. And then I have these little sort of bits popping out over here. So I'm going to go ahead and really loosely and lightly draw a nice outline of each of my lemons. So when I draw that outline, I'm going to keep my hand pretty far away from the tip of my pencil so I can draw nice and light like this. If I have my hand really close to the tip, like how I would write, then it'll come out a lot darker. So instead, I'm going to save that for maybe later when I'm doing my darker values, but for now, I'm going to be doing it nice and light. So I like to tilt my paper a little bit when I'm drawing. So you can tilt yours too if you like, if that helps you out. Beautiful. So that's the shape of the first one. Now for the second one, I think I noticed that it looks like the back one is a little bit taller than the front one, and that the bottom part actually cuts in quite a bit into this front pair, just right about there. And I'm going to go ahead and actually do this oval circular shape and just go right into this first pair because I can always erase it later. Beautiful. And if I go off the page, that's a-okay too. So I think I'm going to kind of round out that edge a little bit and add a little nub area. And this one I see it's kind of coming down and off to the side. So I'm going to do that part over here. And I see too there may be a little bit coming out over here, so I can draw a nice line to help me figure out where the other little nub is going to be. In fact, I want to change this shape just a little bit more. I still notice it's drooping down, but it's not drooping out as much as I thought it was. Beautiful. So now I have the shape of my two lemons. I'm going to go ahead and erase all these inside lines that I don't need so I don't get confused when I go forward and do my details and my textures and my values. Fantastic. So now I'm going to do, maybe I'll erase this inside line too, just so I don't get super confused. Lovely. So now I'm also going to do the shape of my cast shadows. Now my cast shadows are different from my values. My cast shadows are going to be these these shadows on the table. I'm not going to worry about this area right now. I'm actually going to save that later for values, but I want to sort of map out an area where the shadows are on the table. They're a little bit blurry and murky, so the light's not super strong, but I see that there's sort of a shadow that looks like it's coming over here. It's nice and round. And it looks like then there's another one that kind of comes out over here, maybe overlaps a little bit. Beautiful. So now I have the shape of my lemons and my cast shadows. So now we are going to move on to the next step, which is going to be any details and textures that we see. So for details and textures of the lemon, when the lemon is not cut open, I don't see a whole lot of details and textures. I just kind of see these like little dot areas that I'm more than welcome to kind of add in, like hint that there's a little bit of a bumpy surface. I'm not going to put them in everywhere. I'm just going to put them into select spots that I see, being really loose with it. If you decide to do your lemon cut open, you will have more textures and details to play with. But for now, we're just doing this lemon nice and whole. All right. Beautiful. So now let's think about our values. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to draw what are called my value boxes. When we add values to our drawing, then it really makes them pop. It really makes them look 3D and realistic. And that is because values are where the light is touching and not touching our object. So when we think about the light, it then gives a roundedness to our object and makes it look 3D. So for my value boxes, I'm going to draw 4 boxes labeled 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do this on the same sheet of paper, or if you want to do it on a separate sheet, you're more than welcome to. So value 1 is where the light is shining the brightest on my lemon. So the light to me looks like it's coming from over here and shining straight on my lemons. And I can tell because I have this really big bright spot here. So that is where the light is shining the strongest. My value 4 is where there's no light shining on the lemon. So that's over here. It's this very, very dark shadowy shaded area, and a little bit over here too. So I'm going to go ahead then and color in value 4, so I know that that is going to be my darkest value. And then I'm going to skip to value 2, which is the second lightest. So I'm going to hold my pencil really far away, just like I did when I was drawing my shapes. I'm going to put in a nice light value. Beautiful. And then value 3 is in between value 2 and value 4. So I'm going to put in one layer this way. I'm going to turn my paper and put in another layer this way. Beautiful. So now I'm ready to put all of my values onto my lemons. All right, so when we first start putting all of our values into our lemons, you may think, oh my goodness, where do I even begin? How do I tell all of the different values when they're blended so smoothly in my photograph? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for my value 1s, where the light is shining the brightest on my lemons. And I see there's this area over here that has quite a bit of light shining on it. And there's an area over here that has quite a bit of light shining on it too. So I'm going to go ahead and really lightly circle those areas on my lemons so I know that those are my value 1s. Beautiful. So now this is a cool trick. Because I'm layering from light to dark and I just circled my value 1s, I can go ahead everywhere else and put a value 2. I can just put a nice layer in. We're going to come back to our shadows after we're done doing our lemons, so you can hold off on that part for now. So really lightly, I have my hand very far away from the tip of my pencil because I'm just layering in. It's always easier to go from light to dark than it is to go from dark to light. I can always build in more layers, but it's very hard to take them away. So I'm just kind of really easily going into all my areas, just doing this really nice and fluid. And it's all going to blend together really well. So I'm going to make sure I actually don't want to go into that little spot, but I do want to go underneath it. And it may look kind of scratchy in the beginning, but that's just because we've only put one layer down. Beautiful. So now, instead of leaping over to value 3, I actually like to skip and go to value 4. And the reason why is that it's really easy to see where value 1 and value 4 is because they're the strongest values. But 2 and 3 can be really tricky to see. So instead, I'm going to help myself out and go to value 4. So I notice for value 4, there's definitely this part in between the two lemons. I notice on the far side of this lemon over here, that's a nice dark area. And I notice that down here, and to the side, that's a pretty dark area. So I'm going to go ahead and begin to outline a little bit where I see that value. I'm just kind of giving myself a little bit of a map. Like, where should I draw these beautiful values? I'm going to go up here, and then I notice too that there's a little bit that goes down here. I'm being very careful. I'm always looking at my reference image over here because I can't really draw lemons from memory. There's so many intricate areas with values. So I'm going to help myself out and always use my reference image. Beautiful. So now I'm just going to go in, and even if I lose this area here because I'm going in for my value 4, that's okay. I'm really following my picture true to form. Making it nice and dark. Once we learn how to draw with values, the world just becomes our oyster for drawing. We can really then draw anything and make it look realistic, which is pretty amazing. We just have to train our eyes how to see all these different values. And then we can really explore how we want to create things that we see. Again, this may be kind of scratchy as your first one, but if you take your time, you can always blend it to become smoother. Beautiful. So now I have my value 1, my value 2, and my value 4. So now I'm going to go ahead and think about where my value 3 is. And I notice I have a value 3 over here, and that's sort of like a value that's in between 2 and 4. And I notice I have another one over here that's sort of my transition value. So I'm going to go ahead and draw out where those values are. They follow the shape of the lemon. Beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to turn my paper actually. Sometimes I find I get a little bit more roundedness if I turn my paper. Notice with my pencil, I need to sharpen it just a little bit because I'm starting to get a flat edge. Beautiful. Awesome. There we go. And even though I drew the lines, I'm actually kind of going outside the lines because I want it to look really organic. And usually we don't see sort of those cookie cutter lines in nature. Beautiful. So I'm going to kind of blend this line a little bit. And if I find that my value 3 and my value 4 are starting to blend too much together, I can always go back and add more layers. I can always make it darker. Remember, that's the beautiful thing about starting light and then going darker. Always, always go back to add layers and to make these look a little bit different from each other too. It's beautiful. So now I'm going to go over here, add my value 3. I'm sort of cross-hatching, crisscrossing on all these different directions to get my values. Blending them in together, having that nice smooth transition and making it a little darker over here by adding a little bit more pencil to this area. It's really starting to get a form down. Beautiful. So this is looking great. I'm really starting to see all the different forms. Now, I notice here, I really want to make this difference. This looks like a kind of now almost mango shape, so I'm going to go in and make this area even darker. So I'm going to take my pencil, recapture that shape. It's a little bit blended away with all the values. I'm going to make this super, super dark. Maybe this is like a 4+ with my values. I'm going to turn my paper. I'm good. I'm just like kind of cross-hatching in all these different directions. I'm crisscrossing my lines. Really gives it a nice texture. Lovely. So now that I've worked on all the values for my lemons, I'm going to do my cast shadows. Now with cast shadows, we have a value 4 where the shadow touches our lemons because it's closest to the light source that's being blocked. And then the further we get away from it, the lighter it's going to get. So I'm going to go ahead now and work on my value 4s with my cast shadow, and that will really help give my lemon some definition. I notice it gets really, really dark in here, and it kind of stays pretty dark. And it's okay that my values over here and for my cast shadow are really similar and kind of blending. That's a-okay. And we have it kind of blend out to maybe a value 3. I don't really see a value 2 or value 1, so I'm not going to draw them. I'm just going to draw the values that I see. Beautiful. So now let's see. Over here, it looks like this is more just a value 3. It looks like it's a little bit lighter, with maybe a tiny bit of a value 4. Value 4 really close to. Beautiful. And notice that this kind of comes in here just a little bit more. Fantastic! So now I have my lemons and my cast shadows, and I've transformed my 2D flat shape into a 3D rounded realistic form. So now it's your turn to play around with doing these lovely values in these lemons. Enjoy! Well, creators, thanks for joining me again on this project. And remember, stay creatively curious.